Creation Account Part 14, Day 6 Part 3. The land creatures mentioned in the Bible are far more than the life of the sea and air. To include some that are mentioned are the unicorns, dragons, lions, snakes, lambs, goats, rams, camels, pigs, behemoth, horses, scorpions, cattle, antelopes, apes, oxen, badgers, bears, dogs, wolves, and a few others. In addition to the land animals, there are also the crawling things, or insects, such as the ants, fleas, spiders, and a few others mentioned in the Bible. Lastly mentioned are man and woman, the two that were the greatest focus of creation. As the saying goes, the best for last. The crowning achievement of creation was that of God creating man and woman as expressed 3 times, created. So, God created man in his own image, in the image of God created he them, male and female created he them, Genesis 1 verse 27 KJV. We also see the second blessing God gives in the creation account, the one to man and woman. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, Genesis 1 verse 28 KJV. We also see with other key verses that God gave them a few commands to follow as well. God also gave us authority and dominion over all things as we read in verse 28. He tells us to subdue it, or to conquer, control, or persuade it, and gives us herbs and fruit for food. As we seen earlier in the series, when someone names something, as God did with light and darkness, as well as other parts of creation, they hold authority over it. So, when God told Adam to take authority, he brought the animal to Adam, and whatever Adam named them, that was their name. Adam gave names to all the livestock, birds, and every other creature on the earth, Genesis 2 verses 19 to 20. The Bible does not explicitly say when the naming occurred, just that man was naming them in the garden, so it is feasible that naming occurred on day 6. We should remember that God can create anything in an instant, and so he could have created them all in minutes, which would allow Adam hours to name them all. Additionally, there were not as many breeds of animals then as there are now, because there was not all the crossbreeding like we have today. Therefore, it probably did not take Adam all day to name the animals that existed then. God brought Adam an animal, he thought for a couple minutes, or maybe instantly, and named it lion, giraffe, or pig, and then the next animal. So, in an 8-hour period, he could have potentially named 240 types of animals, or vastly more. To put it in perspective, there are 6 classes of animals: mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, insects, and fish. Within each class, there are subclasses and then orders of the classes. The total number of all the orders of the animals known today is 147. However, there are further defining categories of animals, such as family, genus, and species, which grow increasingly complex and in number. There are thousands of genera and species today, but was not the case during the first day of creation. Think about it. Do you think Noah would have had room on the ark for the species of animals today due to crossbreeding? No, he would not, and therefore, there were less animals for Adam to name then, compared to today. Regardless, Scripture does not say he named fish, but perhaps the naming continued to another day, to allow Eve to help him name them as a collective effort. After all, the 6 days of creation were by God, not of man naming the animals. Do not get lost in the details, but do not get hung up on them either, and allow God to help you work through them. This is about God creating everything in the universe, not about man naming animals, and we see more of God caring for his creation. As you read in verse 30, he gives every creature of the earth, land, sea, and air, every creature of that creeps, crawls, swims, runs, and flies, every green herb for food. In more understandable terms, everything that lived, ate grass, herb, fruit, and foliage, not each other. There was perfect peace in creation before the curse of man was delivered. To further prove the perfect peace and perfect creation, God saw everything he had made and found it very good, Genesis 1 verse 31. With everything else, He said it was good, but finishing day 6, he found everything very good, as everything he made was perfect and in perfect peace. As we read in Genesis 2 verses 4 to 6, every plant, herb, and tree had no one to till the ground or water the plant, nor did God cause it to rain on the earth yet, so God caused mist to come up from the ground to provide for the plants. This is primarily focused on the Garden of Eden, as Scripture says God planted a garden east of Eden and put the man he formed there, Genesis 2 verse 8. God still causes mist to rise up from the ground to care for the plants, the morning dew as we know it. As Scripture says, and talked about earlier in this series, God cares for the birds of the air and the lilies of the field, as well as the rest of creation, but even more so, He cares for us. To our good and faithful God be all honor, glory, and praise, for only He is worthy of it all.